Welcome to the Chocolate Jubilee to support the Alzheimer's Association. My name is Trevor Paul. I'm Chief Mobility Officer for the state of Michigan. Thanks for joining me. We're here to help end this disease, to raise awareness, to raise money, and to share our stories. Until we can be together, let's stick together. Now I'd like to introduce Jennifer Leppard, President and CEO of the Alzheimer's Association Michigan chapter.
No one could have predicted everything that's happened in 2020. But I'm so proud to share with all of you all the work that our staff has done this year to make sure that we can provide the same level of care and support services to people living in Michigan. We have been so successful in moving our programs virtually. Information referral, including care consultations, education programs, and support groups. We've remained active in public policy, including issues related to COVID, and we've been so fortunate to have both of our U.S. Senators join us for town hall meetings. All of these programs would not be possible without your support. Thanks to your generosity, we have raised nearly $1 million through Chocolate Jubilee this year. I want to thank all the sponsors for leading the way. Because of that, we've been able to expand our reach across the state. We can't wait to get back in person. Until we can be together, let's stick together. The fight to end Alzheimer's doesn't stop, and neither do we.
So many of us, over 5 million people in the United States, are living with Alzheimer's or dementia. Let's hear a few stories from our celebrity champions and people right here in Michigan. Here's what Samuel L. Jackson has to say about it.
The first person that I realized had Alzheimer's in my family was my grandfather. I'd spent the majority of my life with him from the time I was an infant. He was like my best friend. Over the years, I started to realize that my mom was deteriorating the same way until once I went to visit her in Tennessee, and it was summer, 100 degrees outdoors, and we got in our house and it was 130 degrees inside our house. I'm like, why is it so hot in here? And she said she was baking cookies, and I went into the kitchen and opened the oven, and there were actually no cookies in the oven, but the oven was on.
I remember growing up and I first realized that this was a disease. I thought it was curable. Like if we keep reminding grandma certain stories or certain memories, eventually something will switch on and she'll go back to normal. And then that doesn't happen. You know, in my teens, it was more anger and fear. Okay, if it's taking this generation, will it take my parents and then ultimately me? At that point, I didn't want to feel powerless anymore. I keep a journal on Alzheimer's research and just any information I can get my hands on because I don't want to forget the things I'm learning, and I want to be able to share those things with people. 1 in 3 people born in 2015 are headed for this disease. We also know that Alzheimer's is underfunded. In the US, we spend more money on popcorn, Viagra, and anti-aging cream than we do Alzheimer's research. This is scary stuff. It's a freight train coming. In my lifetime, in my son's lifetime, I don't know if I see a cure. But I see it being something that's treatable and something that doesn't have to be so harsh. Research, and more research is going to get us to where we need to be in the decades to come. And as I was appointed Chief Mobility Officer for the state of Michigan, we look for opportunities to create a future where there's more equitable and environmentally conscious transportation. The horse in the race that I bet on to help us get through this and make sure that the research is connected to real people, it's the Alzheimer's Association for sure. Who else convenes caretakers, patients, doctors, researchers? They're quick, they're passionate. They stretch into almost every local community in America. Technology shouldn't just help our communities be safer, greener, more productive. They also need to uphold a person's dignity. The way that people and goods move is going to change a ton over the next decade. Like a self-driving autonomous shuttle that operates in the Brush Park neighborhood of Detroit and serves senior citizens just want to get to a doctor's appointment. That's how it's supposed to work, right? Public-private sector together working on this crisis. The Alzheimer's Association has always been there. In the early days of COVID, we needed to get the right PPE, face shields, masks into the hands of nurses and folks that really needed it. The Alzheimer's Association, they were the right people for that. Even in these tough times, it's up to all of us. This will get us one step closer to a cure. The fight to end Alzheimer's doesn't stop, and neither do we. I realized that this wasn't about saving my generation anymore. This fight's for our kids now. And I want to make sure this thing is at least somewhat contained by the time he's at real risk. Millennials build their life around experiences, and those memories, those are at risk of turning to dust. Much like the greatest generation, all that I have after they've passed, these letters from World War II. I can read these and get a sense of who my grandma was. All our generation's gonna have are social media feeds. We can't allow that to happen. We have to get control of this disease.
I want to thank all the sponsors for leading the way in supporting Chocolate Jubilee this year and encourage all of you to follow their example.
About 5 years ago, both of our mothers received the diagnosis of Alzheimer's. It was devastating, but right from the get-go, the Alzheimer's Association came alongside us, offering compassion and support.
And this year, due to COVID, we've been unable to see our mothers. My mother lives in Canada. Michelle's mother lives in Brooklyn and is under restricted care. That's why we're so grateful for Chocolate Jubilee and all the effort that goes into fundraising and getting out the message, providing support to all those in need. Thank you.
We want to thank all of these sponsors for leading the way and thank them so much for their generosity in making this event successful.
There's lots of ways to participate in the Chocolate Jubilee. Your donation will help lead us into a world without Alzheimer's. Go to cj2020.givesmart.com to get the details. Let's hear Pinola's story.
My name is Pinola Stevens Presley, and I want to share with you my caregiver journey that I experienced with my mother, Vivian Mayer Stevens, who passed away from Alzheimer's disease complications. Her diagnosis really surprised us because there was no one in her family that died of Alzheimer's. One thing that was different, my mother left the farm, and she was one of the original Rosie the Riveters, so she worked at the naval shipyard. Those people had to hold metal beams while they welded them, so we just assumed that maybe she got exposed to some of that metal. That caused the genetic code in her brain to eventually turn into Alzheimer's as she aged. My mother was a very vibrant person. She enjoyed a lot of things outdoors. She had a keen business acumen, and which was a little before her time. And of course, she got challenged on that, being a black woman in the South, but she did extremely well. When we first started noticing my mother's cognitive impairment, she was repeating herself in statements and asking questions over and over. And what stood out to me was the frustration and anger she expressed after she would catch herself. She met with the doctor, he discussed it with her, and he explained to me what the test results had shown. And in talking to her, she realized that she had had some cognitive lapses where she would forget things or she would get a little confused. My mother was able to live 7 years after she was diagnosed on her own. When I moved her to Michigan to live with us, I contacted the Alzheimer's Association because I was working a full-time job and I had a child in middle school and one in high school, and so we couldn't stay home with her all day. So the Alzheimer's Association put me in touch with a daycare facility and also gave me some information on assisted living. We were blessed that we were financially able to put her in daycare, and that is one of the many challenges that families have. They cannot financially support a person with Alzheimer's, and that really drains the families, especially minority families. After she was in daycare, that helped keep her going so well because they did a lot of craft things and things that would make her think. For the caregiver, I think it's really important to get a support group, to take care of yourself, get some kind of exercise schedule, eat well, get plenty of rest, and have a sense of humor. I just want to share 2 stories with you that will make you laugh. I hope for us it did. One weekend when I brought my mother home, my daughter was getting ready to give her a bath, and as she was undressing her to bathe her, she found a chicken drumstick in her bra. And we just like, what? And we asked her, how did it get there? And she said she didn't know. Somebody must have put it there, but we all got a big laugh out of it. Because if you don't laugh, you will end up crying, and more so you will be angry as to why it's happening to your family. Second thing was we took her to see Titanic. She was having a very good day. And then when the name came up, she started reading Titanic, and we thought, oh my, she's going to read everything that's on the screen. But she didn't. She quieted down. But then the scene where all the people were dying, and she just blurted out in the theater, "Those are dead people floating." And we kind of laughed, but it was such a sensitive scene. And we tried to hush her up, and she said, "Stop, stop, stop." It made a scene. We ended up laughing, and she laughed with us, and that's what calmed her down. But you really do have to have a sense of humor, because like I said, if not, the anger will overtake you. The support group is so critical, because there are days when you get to your ends with and you just need someone to talk to. And they were very, very good. And even when we weren't meeting, I had a couple of people's numbers that I could call, and they were very supportive. Thank you.
Your donation makes a huge impact in supporting local programs. Meet Birdie and her son, Chef Andy.
My name is Birdie Sheridan.
And I'm Andy Sheridan. It's nice to participate in the Chocolate Jubilee of the Alzheimer's Association, even though there's a pandemic, because we still need to connect. Today I made a delicious dark chocolate ganache that's a family recipe that goes way back to my grandma. So we use Belgian chocolate, Dutch cocoa, and it's just a really delicious, creamy, amazing dessert. This year it's virtual, but it's still the same benefit. It benefits the same people, so I'm excited to do it. It's good to know you're not alone. That's like the main thing with the organization. When we do the Jubilee, we see a lot of people that are going through the same thing.
It was my middle son who said, Dad may have dementia, because he was acting different. It was his driving. He was going over curbs, and he really used to pride himself about driving. He also was not making sense with certain sentences, and we didn't know what it was. It was like, what? What's that? So we're looking it up, Googling it, doing everything we could to see if he had the characteristics. So sure enough, we went to a great neurologist, and she diagnosed him with Lewy body.
He's a CPA, so he was definitely, provided for the family his whole life.
Jim and I have been married for 51 years. The thing that caught me with him is his personality. He's very quirky. He just says funny little things. Always engaged in other people's conversations, never about him. I always like that, and he's very humble. He's an extremely humble person.
He took us to baseball games, really did everything he could do as a father to make sure his 3 boys had a college education, and he really loved us.
I had a counselor kind of person who would call me, so I would pour my heart out if I needed to, and she knew just what to say. It was suggested that not far from our home that I join a group. It's wonderful people that are going through the same thing, but you just see the sadness in their eyes, but yet you see that they're optimistic, that that, you know, their person or my person is still here, and we're going to do the best we can with it.
Stay strong and continue fighting for your family members and continue supporting Chocolate Jubilee. It really helps families that are struggling. I guess you don't really understand until you go through something how difficult it is, how sad and challenging it is. So to have an organization dedicated to that is it's just so much peace of mind. Support the Alzheimer's Association because it really helps families in need.
Come on and join the fight. It's up to all of us. Meet Michelle. Let's hear her story.
It's been a long journey. Our mom was diagnosed about 10 years ago at the age of 54. When my mom was diagnosed, her initial reaction was, she handled it really with so much grace. I think it was hard. There was definitely a lot of tears shed for all of us. Mom's name is Jeannie Capones. She comes from a big Catholic Irish family, grew up in Royal Oak. Sweet, soft-spoken, kind to everybody. For the first year after her diagnosis, we met with so many different doctors. What is the future going to hold? It was sad and scary. So then after she was diagnosed, unfortunately had to retire early, but I kind of looked at one of the blessings of that was that she was able to spend so much more time than she thought with her grandkids. She really got a chance to be part of their life. And they all love her so much. I think the kids bring acceptance. They just love her no matter what. They love her like unconditionally. And they bring us all a lot of joy, but certainly her. She hears our voices and it makes her smile and laugh. I think that was a gift for all of them, really, to be able to have a grandparent that needed care. They would be holding Grandma's hand, guiding her, versus her holding their hand, guiding them. I think people are uncomfortable talking about diseases of the brain, especially Alzheimer's disease. It's scary. Going to a support group, calling a hotline made it real, so that was hard. You kind of feel like you're on a deserted island and nobody else understands. It was hard to ask for help, but it was also good to know that it was there if you needed it. Well, making the decision to move our mom to a memory care facility, it was not an easy decision, and it was not an overnight decision. It was a difficult time. She's being well cared for, she's safe, and she's happy. This picture is my mom, Jeannie, my dad, Don, on their wedding day. And if you looked up the definition of true love and dedication to one another, this is it right here.
We've been married today. Today's our anniversary, and it's 45 years today. Happy anniversary. I love you.
Yeah, the pandemic has made things very difficult, very stressful. To be able to be near her is nice. Supporting the Alzheimer's Association is huge. The Walk to End Alzheimer's and our family being part of that every year kind of brought not just our immediate family, but extended families and friends that we maybe hadn't seen for several months, but would all come together. So through the Alzheimer's Association, they have a program called Minds on Art. We would tour different parts of the DIA and then actually go into their creative rooms, which was really a neat experience. I'd certainly love to have the opportunity to thank the Alzheimer's Association on behalf of myself, my whole family, especially from our mom, that you gave us hope when we didn't feel a lot of hope. You gave us a family. You gave us a community of people who knew and understood what we were going through.
And here are some more stories from familiar faces.
The first time I encountered Alzheimer's disease was my grandfather. In his 80s, started showing signs of odd behavior and losing his ability to do things that he'd always been gifted at. It has been a great solace to me and my family that even though we lost first my grandfather and then my dad, we feel like with the Alzheimer's Association we can still win the war.
Unfortunately, there's nothing to reverse this disease, but you can carry on loving somebody in that given moment, each and every day.
My mother was a navigator for our family in many, many ways. So when she started to fail, it pretty much tore the fabric of our family apart. The Alzheimer's Association has always been a kind of antidote to the powerlessness and confusion. And that's why I think the Alzheimer's Association is so important, because it's a place where you can do something.
Your donation will have a direct impact on those struggling with this disease.
The first person to survive Alzheimer's disease is out there. And the Alzheimer's Association is going to make it happen by funding scientific breakthroughs, advancing public policy, and putting local support to those living with the disease and their caregivers. But we won't get there without you. Join the fight with the Alzheimer's Association.
You can donate money, a little or a lot. Give generously if you can. Even in these tough times, you can send chocolate or do sweets to friends and family. You can enter to win prizes. A big thank you to all our sponsors.